The council chamber of the Galactic Assembly gleamed under lights that seemed older than time itself. Every panel, every crystal, every holographic display shimmered with the weight of centuries, reflecting the faces of thousands of species that had survived wars, plagues, and cosmic calamities. Yet none of that experience could have prepared them for what was about to happen. And then came the humans. They were small in number, no one would have called them imposing, but there was something about the way they walked into the chamber that made silence ripple like a tide. Their representative, a woman named Ilara Venn, stepped forward with nothing but a simple slate of projections. She carried no weapons, no threats, only her voice. "You call yourselves the keepers of civilization," she began, calm yet piercing, "but you judge us without understanding. You measure us by your fears, not our deeds." A murmur ran through the council. The Alarians, long-feathered and towering, whispered among themselves. The Drenthak, exoskeletal and armored, clicked in agitation. Even the crystalline beings of Luminara seemed to flicker nervously. Ilara's eyes swept the room, steady and unwavering. She did not flinch. "Humans," she continued, "are flawed. We are emotional, impulsive, fragile. Yes, but we have survived against odds that dwarf your imagination. We have endured without dominion, without power, without technology that could wipe planets clean. And yet here we stand asking for nothing but fairness." The council vote was imminent. Every species had been asked, should humanity be allowed full membership in the Assembly, the highest seat in galactic governance? The votes had already begun circulating, and whispers of fear had poisoned the chamber. Fear of the unknown, fear of humanity's unpredictability, fear of the stories of wars fought across Earth long ago. The vote began. One by one, representatives cast their judgment. The Zur, with their fluid forms that shimmered in multiple dimensions, voted against humans. "They are unstable. Their emotions cloud judgment," they stated, their voice a chorus of chimes. The Corvani, predatory and sharp-eyed, hissed in agreement. "If chaos is born, it will be theirs." Ilara's chest tightened, but her voice did not falter. She spoke not to plead, but to remind. "We are not chaos. We are challenge, yes, but growth too. We learn, adapt, endure. Every species that underestimates humanity does so at their own peril." The vote continued. Fear overrode reason. Species that had thrived in the galaxy, each with histories far older than humanity's, cast their judgment. Each negative vote echoed in the chamber like a drumbeat against hope. And then, the last vote was cast. The chamber was silent. The results blinked on the central display. Humanity had been rejected, not narrowly, overwhelmingly. Across hundreds of worlds, across dozens of species, the decision was unanimous. The room erupted, not in cheers, not in debate, but in a kind of stunned collective satisfaction. The galaxy had turned its back on humans. Ilara did not scream. She did not argue. She simply straightened, her eyes steady, and addressed the council one final time. "Very well," she said softly, and in that moment something in the chamber shifted. It was not fear, at least not yet, but awareness. Awareness that humans, though small, though young in galactic terms, had a resilience that no vote, no council, no judgment could erase. As she turned to leave, the assembly hall seemed to pulse with unease. Murmurs of what had just happened swirled like a storm. The representatives could not yet name it, but in the core of their being something primal had awakened. Something old, deep and unyielding. And far across the void of space, hidden in the shadows of uncharted systems, humans began to prepare. Not for revenge. Not for conquest. For survival. Because the galaxy had made a mistake, and humanity would ensure it remembered. The stars above Earth had always been distant, indifferent. Humans had looked at them for millennia and wondered what lay beyond, never imagining that one day the universe itself would turn its judgment upon them. Now, after the vote, Earth was quiet, but it was not defeated. Cities that once hummed with everyday life were lit with a different energy, a determination born from the knowledge that the galaxy had declared them unwanted. Ilara Venn returned to Earth's capital, Nova Meridian, a city of glass towers and endless skyways. She was greeted not by fear or despair, but by Commander Kale Draven, a man whose quiet strength had saved countless lives in conflicts humans barely remembered. Kale's eyes, dark and unyielding, reflected the same fire Ilara felt. "They turned us away. Cale said, his voice low, almost a whisper, though the words carried weight like hammers. Every vote cast against us, they've sealed their own fate. Ilara nodded, unflinching. They see us as fragile, emotional, unpredictable. And maybe they are right, but they have no idea what that unpredictability can do. Behind them, the city thrummed with activity. Laboratories, shipyards, and training facilities had been operating in secret for months, long before the Council's vote. Humanity had always prepared, not for dominance, but for survival. Now survival meant something far greater. Among the scientists was Dr. Leora Sarin, a soft-spoken woman with bright eyes that missed nothing. She moved swiftly between her teams, checking calculations, monitoring energy signatures, ensuring the weapon systems they had developed were functional. Yet even she paused when she saw Ilara and Cale enter. "The galaxy believes we are weak," Leora said, a hint of a smile tugging at her lips. "But weakness can be a mask. Strength comes from purpose." In the training grounds, humans of all ages moved with precision, not just soldiers, but engineers, pilots, strategists, each understanding that survival required more than brute force. They were learning, adapting, anticipating. Every skill honed, every mind sharpened was a promise to the galaxy. Humans would endure. Ilara walked among them, observing quietly. She paused at a young boy practicing piloting in a simulator, barely 13, yet moving with an instinct that made veterans step back in awe. "He doesn't know it yet," she murmured to Cale, "but he is part of why they'll regret underestimating us." Cale's jaw tightened. "We can't let anger guide us," he said. "The galaxy's vote was a wound, but a wound can heal into strength. We need strategy, precision, and patience." Ilara's gaze hardened. "Patience, yes. But we also need the courage to act when the time comes. The galaxy's arrogance, it blinds them. And humans can see in the dark." And so for months they worked. They mapped every galactic route, studied every species' habits, and developed technologies that bent the rules the Council believed immutable. Humans discovered resilience in places even they had not imagined. Ancient engineering hidden beneath deserts. Minds of prodigious children solving calculations that astounded their elders, and an unyielding unity that no alien politics could fracture. At night, when the work ceased, humans gathered on the roofs of Nova Meridian, gazing up at the stars. They whispered stories of old Earth battles, of survival against impossible odds, and of hope that refused to die. Ilara stood among them, silently listening. She knew the galaxy saw only small emotional beings, but humanity had something far greater, the courage to rise when the universe seemed intent on crushing them. "Do you think they'll come for us?" a young pilot asked, her voice trembling. Ilara's eyes softened, but her answer was unwavering. "If they do, they will learn too late that turning on humanity was the gravest mistake they could ever make, because humans, as fragile as they seemed, had learned something the galaxy had forgotten. The spark of survival, once ignited, could not be extinguished, and that spark would soon burn brighter than any star. As the night deepened, a quiet tension settled over Earth. The galaxy had rejected them, but humanity was awakening, and when they were ready, no force, no council, no species could ignore the power of a people who refused to be subdued. Somewhere in the void, the first ripple of awareness spread among alien observers. Fear, subtle, unacknowledged, crept into hearts and minds. The humans, small and underestimated, were beginning their rise, and the galaxy would come to regret the vote that condemned them all. The galaxy had dismissed humanity. They saw only fragile bodies and unpredictable emotions. They did not see the mind behind the hands, nor the will that refused to break. And yet, as ships lifted from Nova Meridian, Earth's engines humming with quiet purpose, the first threads of a human response began to weave through the void. Captain Rylan Cade watched from the command deck of the Aurora's Edge, a sleek frigate barely a decade old but bristling with innovations that no alien species had ever anticipated. He ran a hand across the console, feeling the pulse of the ship as if it were alive. "Status report," he said. Lieutenant Mira Solon, young but fierce, replied without hesitation. "All systems nominal. Stealth drive fully operational. Sensors detecting minimal interference in the outer sectors. We're ready to move undetected." Rylan allowed himself a small, grim smile. "Good. The galaxy doesn't even know we exist beyond their vote. Let's keep it that way, for now." While Earth's leaders had prepared in secret, the Council had grown complacent. They assumed rejection equaled submission. But humans did not submit. They did not yield. They did not forget. And in the darkness of space where no law but survival applied, humans would prove it. The first mission was simple on paper. Survey the outer rim, identify weak points in interstellar trade routes, and test new technology, stealth drives, energy shields, even adaptive weapons that could alter themselves mid-combat. But simple missions often carried the heaviest lessons. As the Aurora's edge slipped silently past a cluster of uncharted asteroids, Mira's fingers danced over the controls. "Captain, we're not alone." On the main screen, a shadow flickered, a scout vessel of the Drenthak, notorious for their ruthless vigilance. Its sensors should have detected the humans instantly, yet it did not. Humanity had anticipated every probability, every margin of error. And in that quiet, calculated moment, they had an advantage no one expected: the ability to move unseen. Ryland's pulse quickened, but he kept his voice steady. "Hold course. Let them pass, observe, record everything. The galaxy will learn, eventually." For hours they followed at a distance, watching the Drenthak patrol, noting patterns, vulnerabilities, and overconfidence. Every observation became data. Every error became a lesson. Humans, small and underestimated, were turning the galaxy's arrogance into a blueprint for survival and eventual power. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Ilara and Kale monitored the mission. Ilara's gaze lingered on the display, studying the subtle movements of the patrol ship. "They think they're superior," she said quietly. "But superiority without understanding is a fragile thing." Kyle nodded, the weight of responsibility pressing on his broad shoulders. "They'll find out soon enough that humans can endure anything. And then some." But the human response was not only tactical, it was psychological. Across communication channels, small but deliberate signals were transmitted. Messages that seemed random to alien ears, but were carefully constructed to leave a lingering sense of unease. Tiny disruptions, patterns that suggested foresight, intelligence, and cohesion that no species had ever seen before. The Drenthak patrol ship, unaware of what followed, suddenly experienced a system glitch, a mere 5 minutes of disorientation. In human terms, it was a test. In alien terms, it was the first whisper of fear. Ryland leaned back, the bridge lights casting shadows across his determined face. "They won't know what hit them," he said softly. "Not yet. But they will remember." And the galaxy, vast and indifferent, was beginning to notice the anomaly. A species they had dismissed, a people they had scorned, was no longer just surviving. They were adapting. They were calculating. In the silence between stars, a truth began to emerge. The humans were not waiting for the galaxy to act. They were preparing to remind it why survival mattered, why adaptability, courage, and intelligence could overcome raw power. Somewhere, far beyond the rim, a counselor of the Alarians paused mid-sentence. "Do you feel that?" they whispered. Their feathers bristled. "Something is shifting, something we did not anticipate." And it was true. Humanity was small, seemingly fragile yet unstoppable in ways no species could comprehend. They were the spark in the darkness, the voice that refused silence, the mind that thrived where others feared to tread. The Aurora's edge disappeared into the void, leaving the Drenthak patrol behind untouched, yet forever changed by the unseen presence they could neither identify nor understand. Ryland's voice came through the bridge comms, calm yet full of quiet certainty. "The galaxy thinks it voted on humanity, but the vote was only the beginning. And humanity, patient, intelligent, and resolute, had only just begun. The galaxy slept in complacency, lulled by the Council's vote. Humanity was dismissed, a minor curiosity at best, a fragile species at worst. But in the shadows of uncharted space, humanity was awakening with precision and purpose. On the Aurora's edge, Captain Ryland Cade observed the holographic map before him, each blinking light a node in the complex web of galactic travel. "Targets are in place," he said, his voice steady yet charged with anticipation. "Ready the relay points. Initiate the test." Lieutenant Mira Solon glanced at him, a flicker of awe in her eyes. "We're about to make history, aren't we?" Ryland didn't answer immediately. He studied the coordinates, Trade convoys, unguarded supply stations, communication hubs. The plan wasn't destruction, not yet. It was demonstration. A calculated, undeniable display of human capability. Back on Earth, Ilara Venn and Commander Kale Draven monitored the operation. "They still underestimate us," Kale muttered, his jaw tight. "They think survival is enough. They don't know humans will redefine it." Ilara's eyes remained fixed on the feed. "They will know soon enough," she said softly, almost reverently. "It only takes a spark to ignite awareness." The first strike began at the outer rim of Drenthak territory. Humans moved like shadows, silent and invisible. Using stealth drives and adaptive drones, they intercepted a convoy carrying critical supplies. Not a shot was fired, not a life taken. Yet within moments, the entire convoy was disabled. Ships frozen mid-journey, communication arrays jammed, engines rendered useless. The Drenthak response was swift, but clumsy. Their arrogance, their assumption of superiority, had left them vulnerable. Every maneuver they executed was anticipated, every counterattack rendered ineffective. The humans had turned their underestimation into a weapon. Rylan observed the patrol feeds with quiet intensity. "Phase 2, he said. "Show them the mind behind the action." Drones projected holographic messages over the convoy's comms, brief flashes of human faces, calm yet determined, accompanied by words that resonated across species lines. "You judged us. You dismissed us. Now you will see why the galaxy was wrong." Panic spread like wildfire. The Drenthak convoys, once confident and disciplined, faltered. Signals of confusion, fear, and disbelief radiated across communication networks. The galaxy had assumed humanity would bend to dismissal. Humanity did not bend. Humanity acted. Meanwhile, on Earth, the Council of Leaders watched, hearts pounding with cautious triumph. Ilara turned to Kale. "This is only the beginning," she said. "They will underestimate us again. But each time we grow stronger." And grow stronger they did. Across the void, humanity's network expanded. Relay stations, research outposts, hidden armadas, all synchronized with precision. Humans were small in number, but unmatched in coordination and creativity. Every setback was a lesson, every observation a strategy. Yet amidst triumph there was humility. Rylan looked at the feeds of the disabled convoy, ships and crews unharmed but immobilized. "We are not conquerors," he said quietly. "We are reminders. If they had chosen understanding, this would not be necessary. But they turned against us." Back in the stars, alien species began to notice the anomaly. Whispers spread through councils and outposts. Humans were not weak. They were not simple. They were precise, patient, and terrifyingly clever. Fear, previously dormant, crept into their thoughts, a subtle gnawing unease they could not name. The first spark had been lit. It was not destruction. It was revelation. Humanity had shown that even a species dismissed as fragile could command attention across the galaxy without spilling blood unnecessarily. Ilara's voice cut through the comms. "Remember this," she said to the team on Earth and the fleet beyond. "We do not destroy without cause. We do not fight without purpose. But we will not be ignored, not now, not ever." And for the first time the galaxy felt it. Not the arrogance of power, not the authority of age, but the quiet, unstoppable force of humanity's spirit. Somewhere, deep in council chambers, a Drenthak commander clenched his claws. "We underestimated them," he admitted aloud, though the words tasted bitter. "We made a mistake we cannot afford to repeat." Rylan smiled faintly, watching the stars glide past the aurora's edge. "No," he said to himself. "They made a mistake when they voted against humanity. That vote will echo across every star, forever. And humanity, patient, brilliant, and unyielding, had only begun to prove why the galaxy should never have turned against them." The galaxy had begun to tremble, though few realized it yet. Humanity was no longer the species to be dismissed. The ripple of the first spark had become a wave, invisible yet unstoppable, sweeping through councils, fleets, and minds alike. Captain Rylan Cade stood on the bridge of the Aurora's edge, eyes scanning the holographic display of a Drenthak armada moving toward the outer rim. Hundreds of ships bristling with weapons, confident in their superiority. Their intelligence underestimated humans, as always. That arrogance would be their undoing. Report, Ryland said calmly. Lieutenant Mira Solin's fingers flew across the console. They've deployed heavy cruisers ahead of the main fleet. Sensors suggest they anticipate an ambush, but they have no idea we've altered the gravitational parameters of the nearby asteroid field. They'll think it's standard navigation. Ryland's lips pressed into a thin line. Good. Let's remind them that the galaxy misjudged us once, and they won't make the same mistake twice. Meanwhile, on Earth, Ilara Venn and Commander Kale Draven monitored the situation with a mix of excitement and tension. This is more than strategy, Kyle muttered. It's teaching them a lesson they'll never forget. We're showing them the price of arrogance. Ilara's eyes remained steady, resolute. And humanity will endure it too. That is the difference. Our strength is not in fear or in numbers. Our strength is in purpose, in the will to rise no matter the odds. As the Drenthak fleet entered the asteroid field, their sensors screamed confusion. Ships slowed, collided, and recalculated endlessly, while humanity's fleet glided through with flawless precision. Adaptive drones projected signals that simulated false maneuvers, drawing cruisers into dangerous positions. Every move was calculated, every counter anticipated. The Drenthak commander, a towering exoskeletal being named Tharkan, roared orders that cut through the chaos. Destroy them! Find the humans. They cannot escape. But the humans had no intention of destruction, only of demonstration. Small precise strikes disabled weapon systems and immobilized key vessels. No lives were lost, but the message was clear. Humans were not to be underestimated. Ryland watched the fleet respond with careful efficiency. Remember, no unnecessary harm, he reminded his crew. Our power is in our control, not just our firepower. Amid the chaos, Ensign Lyra Noss, barely 19, guided a disabled Drenthak frigate to safety using human engineering drones. Her hands trembled, but her eyes were resolute. We fight with intelligence and heart, she whispered to herself. They will see that soon enough. By the time the Drenthak fleet regrouped, they were battered not by force but by precision and ingenuity. Their arrogance had been shattered. Panic crept into their ranks, a foreign and unnerving sensation, and through it all the humans remained calm, composed, and deadly in their clarity of purpose. Back on Earth, Ilara turned to Kale, her voice quiet but unwavering. Do you see it? They feel it. For the first time, the galaxy understands that underestimating humanity has consequences. They fear us not because of our weapons but because of our resolve. Kyle nodded slowly. And that fear, it will spread. They will begin to question every assumption they've ever made about us. That is our advantage: patience, intelligence, and courage. As the stars stretched endlessly outside the fleet's hulls, Ryland allowed himself a moment of reflection. Humanity had been judged, scorned, and dismissed. Yet here they were, not crushed, not broken, but rising. Tharkan's voice crackled over the fleet communications, trembling despite his attempts at composure. Humans, how? Ryland's response was calm, precise, and unforgettable. You voted against us. You turned on us, and now you see why that was the gravest mistake of the galaxy. The Drenthak commander fell silent, the weight of understanding settling over him like a heavy shadow. Humanity had proven that resilience, intelligence, and courage could not be measured by appearances. And across the void, other species began to notice. The spark had become ablaze. The galaxy had been warned. Humanity would not only survive, they would reshape the rules of existence for all who dared judge them. For humanity, the battle had not ended. It had only begun, but for the first time the universe could no longer ignore them, and the vote that condemned them had lit a fire that no council, no fleet, and no species could ever extinguish. The galaxy had woken from its arrogance. Councils that had once dismissed humanity now trembled in uncertainty, their chambers filled with debate, accusation, and fear. The vote that had seemed a simple dismissal now looked like a reckless gamble. And for the first time, every species felt the weight of underestimating humans. On Nova Meridian, Ilara Venn watched the reports stream in. Star systems that had ignored humanity's warnings now questioned everything. Trade routes disrupted, fleets immobilized, communication networks compromised. The humans had not attacked recklessly. They had acted with precision, clarity, and an understanding of strategy that few could match. Cale Draven stepped beside her, his expression unreadable. They expected us to bend, to falter. But humans rise when cornered, Ilara nodded, and now they panic. Their arrogance has left them exposed. Across the galaxy, alien fleets scrambled to respond. The Alarians, long-feathered and proud, sent emissaries to neighboring species. Humanity. They are unlike any we imagined, they admitted. We must form alliances or we risk extinction. The Drenthak, humiliated and shaken, convened in secrecy. Tharkon's claws tapped against the crystalline council table. We cannot underestimate them again. Every assumption about their weakness has been proven false. We must prepare differently. And yet, even amidst fear, many species could not reconcile themselves with the human approach. They saw strength in humanity's restraint, intelligence in their tactics, and courage in their unity, and it unnerved them. It challenged everything they thought they knew about survival, power, and dominance. Ilara convened a council on Earth, a smaller one, composed of the human fleet's leaders. "The galaxy is scared," she began, her voice calm but commanding. "Good, let them feel it. But fear alone is not enough. We must continue to teach, to demonstrate, without destroying unnecessarily." Rylan Cade, still aboard the Aurora's Edge, received orders to expand the operations. "We will continue mapping vulnerabilities, relay intelligence, and anticipate every move they make," Ilara's message stated. "Every step forward is proof that they misjudged us. Every decision they make now will be influenced by the vote they cast." Mira Solon glanced at Rylan. "Do you think they'll ever stop underestimating us?" Rylan allowed a small smile. "Perhaps some will. But those who do will regret it the most." The human approach was deliberate. Supply lines were intercepted, communications monitored, and fleets moved with precision. But casualties were avoided wherever possible. They were demonstrating capability, resilience, and moral strength. Each act was a message. Humans would survive, humans would endure, and humans would never be dismissed again. Across alien space, whispers grew louder. Councils argued. Some species proposed alliances, hoping to counter human ingenuity before it became unstoppable. Others, fearful and fractured, considered surrender, not to humans, but to the inevitability that humans would shape the future whether the galaxy agreed or not. Yet the humans themselves were not blinded by triumph. On Earth, Ilara reminded her council, "We are strong, but strength without purpose is empty. Intelligence without morality is hollow. We must continue with clarity, precision, and the courage to do what is right." The galaxy's reaction was inevitable: hesitation, fear, and a growing respect that was as fragile as it was real. Humans were no longer the species to be dismissed. They were a force the galaxy could not ignore, and in the quiet corners of space, in observation posts and hidden outposts, alien officers whispered the truth they could not yet admit. Humans were changing the rules. Every calculation, every strategy, every assumption had failed to anticipate what made humans unique: resilience, ingenuity, courage, and a refusal to bow to judgment. For the first time in the history of galactic politics, the vote that condemned a species was being reconsidered, not by persuasion, but by the undeniable proof of capability. The galaxy had underestimated humanity. That mistake would echo through every star system, every fleet, every council chamber forever. Ilara stood at the observation deck of Nova Meridian, gazing at the stars. "They thought they judged us," she whispered. "They thought they condemned us. But all they did was awaken something they cannot control." And across the void, from the smallest freighter to the mightiest capital ship, humans moved with purpose, precision, and patience. They were not conquering. They were surviving. They were proving that even a species dismissed as fragile could wield strength of mind, heart, and spirit greater than the galaxy had ever known. The tides of reckoning had begun, and humanity was the storm at the center, silent, unstoppable, and magnificent. The galaxy held its breath. For centuries, species had cast votes, made judgments, and assumed superiority over one another. Yet never had a vote carried consequences like the one against humanity. The council that once turned its back now faced a truth they could not ignore. Humans were not weak. Humans were unstoppable. On Nova Meridian, Ilara Ven stood before the unified human council, her presence calm yet commanding. Ships orbited the planet silently, ready but unthreatening. Humanity had shown restraint, ingenuity, and courage, and now the galaxy could no longer dismiss them. Commander Cale Draven approached, voice low. They know we could strike decisively at any moment, but they also know we won't, unless necessary. Ilara nodded. Exactly. Power without purpose is meaningless. Humanity's strength is in our endurance, our unity, and our morality, and that is the message the galaxy must finally understand. Across the void, alien species convened in emergency councils. The Aelarians, the Drenthak, the Zur, and countless others debated not whether humanity was powerful, they already knew, but what to do next. Some argued for reconciliation, some for submission, and others feared that any move might awaken the human spirit even further. Captain Rylan Cade's voice crackled across communications. Humanity does not seek war. Humanity seeks recognition, understanding, and a chance to exist without judgment. And yet, make no mistake, any who threaten us will learn why underestimating humans was the galaxy's gravest mistake. The first formal communication to the galaxy was broadcast. Ilara's voice, steady and resolute, reached every system. You voted against us. You judged us by fear, not by understanding. You turned away from the species that, despite fragility, endured every challenge, adapted to every adversity, and rose above every expectation. We are humanity. We do not seek vengeance. We do not seek conquest. We seek a place among you as equals, recognized not for the power we possess, but for the resilience, ingenuity, and courage that define us. For the first time, a council that had once spoken with certainty fell silent. The words were not a threat but a revelation. Alien representatives realized that humans had rewritten every assumption about survival, intelligence, and morality. The Drenthak commander, Tharkon, spoke through the comms, voice trembling but respectful. We see it now. Humanity is unlike any we have known. They do not bend to fear. They do not bow to arrogance, and their strength is unmatched in its clarity of purpose. Across the galaxy, the effect was immediate. Species that had formed alliances against humans hesitated. Fleets that had prepared to strike paused. The vote that had condemned humanity became a cautionary tale, echoing in every corner of the stars. Never dismiss a species whose spirit cannot be broken. On Earth, Ilara turned to Cale, her eyes reflecting the infinite stars beyond. Do you see it? She asked quietly. The galaxy finally understands. Cale nodded slowly. Yes, they see the truth now. Humanity is not a species to be feared or underestimated. They are a species to be respected. Rylan, watching from the fleet command, allowed himself a rare smile. Humanity had not taken the easy path. They had not destroyed, conquered, or annihilated. They had endured, adapted, and demonstrated power tempered by morality. And in doing so, they had changed the course of galactic history forever. Ilara's voice, calm and unwavering, reached all corners of human space and alien observation posts alike. We were judged. We were dismissed. The galaxy voted against us, and yet here we are, stronger, wiser, and united. Humanity endures. Humanity thrives. Humanity reminds the galaxy that courage, intelligence, and heart cannot be silenced, cannot be ignored, and cannot be defeated. The galaxy would never forget the vote that condemned humanity, not because of destruction, but because of revelation. Humans were alive, thriving, and unbroken. A testament to the enduring power of spirit over fear, intelligence over arrogance, and courage over complacency. And somewhere across the infinite stars, the council that had once judged humanity whispered the truth they could not deny. They shouldn't have turned on humanity. The stars, silent witnesses to millennia of conflict and triumph, seemed to shimmer brighter that night. Humanity had proven that being underestimated was not weakness. It was the prelude to greatness. And so, as humans gazed at the galaxy with quiet determination, the universe understood something profound. The vote that condemned them had forged a species that could not be contained, could not be silenced, and could not be denied. The galaxy had learned a lesson it would carry through eternity. Humanity survives. Humanity thrives. Humanity endures. And in that truth, the cosmos itself bowed, not in fear but in awe.